customers with premium website services to help you grow your business faster when you visit mylocalcustomers.com. Don't wait. Visit mylocalcustomers.com today to learn more about how Town Square can help you grow your business. That's mylocalcustomers.com.
We know sports.
Oh, baby, a right hand jam.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what a attack! What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Monday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, live here in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Glad to have you guys on board the show today. Big Sixers weekend plus a little Eagles news happening as well. We'll get to all of that tonight on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Of course, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, or you can text it at 609-403-0973. How can we not talk about the weekend? James Harden makes his debut. Sixers are 2-0 with him on the court. So we'll talk with Philadelphia Inquirer, Sixers beat reporter Keith Pompey coming up at 6:20 tonight. Get a firsthand look at how this team is doing with Harden, how much of it is stuff that we can move forward with. Because that's the biggest thing I took about from one of the biggest things I took from the weekend was I'm trying to process how much of what we saw is applicable long term. When you talk about anything in sports, all right, anytime a player debuts with a new team, anytime you see anything, anywhere, you have to ask the question. What I have seen on day one, how much of that is something that can translate long term? So I'm here to tell you there are some things that are and some things that are not moving forward. The number one thing that is, I can promise you, is going to keep happening. There's one thing I can promise you that what we have seen for these first two wins, the Sixers, with James Harden moving forward, that's the assist numbers. This is who James Harden is now. He is a high basketball IQ guy that looks like a machine, an absolute machine going out there and just moving up and down the court, moving his way around defenders. Now, I understand that Minnesota and New York are not two of the best defensive teams in the league. The Knicks and the T-Wolves. T-Wolves might be one of the 5 worst. And the Knicks are probably what you would qualify as an average to below average defensive team, which is shocking to say considering their head coach is Tom Thibodeau. But with that being said, what James Harden did is something he's been doing his entire career at this point. I've watched about 8 years of James Harden, slithering his way around a defense, finding openings. I've seen that for 8 years now? That's not new to me. I understand that some people, seeing Harden put up these massive assist numbers is probably new to them. But I'm here to tell you in general, it's not new. Just a basic research can show you that. I told you guys on Friday night, I said the one thing I could promise you from Harden was that he was going to get double-digit assists to start. Because you go through Harden's history, his first game with Chris Paul, his first game with Russell Westbrook, his first game with Durant and Kyrie, they all had one thing in common. Harden in every one of those games had double-digit assists. He did the same thing in these first two games. This is who Harden is at the core of his game. Yes, I understand he's one of the greatest scorers of all time and all that good stuff. But Harden, for the last several years, has taken it upon himself to show the world that he is more than just a scorer. And I applaud that. I appreciate that. I respect that about Harden. So that's the one thing I can guarantee you is going to continue forward. What I can also guarantee you that will not happen every game moving forward, though, is the volume at which the Sixers have been able to get free throws. Harden and Embiid, I understand, are two of the highest free throw attempt guys in the league. But teams are going to start figuring out how to limit their own touches. Okay? They're going to figure it out. They're going to process it. Teams are going to have to make a decision on who they're going to let beat them. And teams are going to start forcing the ball out of Embiid and Harden's hands and trying to make Maxey and Harris and the rest of the team beat them. That's what this really comes down to. It's a very straightforward analysis because there's never been a team in basketball history that has dominated every night no matter what. The closest thing we ever got to that was that Bulls team that had 72 wins and the Warriors team that had 73. But the thing that those teams have that this current Sixers team doesn't have is that they had more than two guys out there. Now, for the Bulls, they had the greatest, or one of the greatest of all time, depending on who you ask, in Michael Jordan, and arguably one of the 50 greatest players of all time, Scottie Pippen. And then Rodman is such a defensive force of nature. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. Rodman is the greatest player I've ever seen at doing only a couple things, and that's it. It's absolutely amazing that that guy had a Hall of Fame career rebounding the ball and playing defense, but he did. It's incredible. They also had one of the greatest catch and shoot three-point shooters of all time in Steve Kerr on the team as well. And they played elite defense as a unit. The Warriors, what did they do? They had the greatest collection of three-point shooters of all time in Curry and Thompson. And then they went out there and had Draymond Green, who's the greatest utility knife in the last 30 years in the NBA. And they also happened to have a very deep bench and play great defense. So even those teams, they didn't win by 10, 20, 30 points every night. So somewhere along the way, someone is going to make the Sixers work for it. My assumption would be it's probably going to be the Miami Heat. I don't know if this Sixers team is going to be able to score at the efficiency. Harden and Embiid will draw fouls. That's without the question. We know they'll draw fouls. We know that Harden will get the assists. But the efficiency at which they've scored for 2 games, I can't promise you that. There's going to be an ugly game somewhere on this schedule. And don't downplay that Nets game. I just saw Kyrie take the Nets into Milwaukee and basically work them. I couldn't believe what I was watching Saturday night. I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking, how are the Bucks struggling this much to stop one guy? And that's how talented and how high level Kyrie Irving is. You know, don't undersell the Nets coming to Philadelphia. The Knicks, that's probably another win. The Bulls, we'll wait and see who's available and who's not. They've had some guys coming in and out of the lineup. The Cavs, they got Markkanen back. But the Heat game is going to be the one that I'm most intrigued by, because the Heat are a team that can give them a level of defense that almost nobody else can. And they can make everybody have that tape that says, this is how you slow down Embiid and Harden. Because the goal is never to beat these guys. It's to slow them down. That's always where the rubber meets the road. The rubber meets the road when you say, we're not going to stop this team. We're going to slow them down. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. We'll talk with Key Pompey for the Philadelphia Inquirer coming up at 6:20 tonight. As always, we'd like to hear from you guys at 609-403-0973 is the text board at 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Message comes in here, says, the thing I think they'll have the ability to continue moving forward is draw tons of fouls. I agree with that, texter. I think that, Harden and Embiid have shown you that this is who they are now. This is a huge part of their game, is getting other teams in foul trouble, getting to the foul line, getting those buckets that I don't want to call them easy buckets. I think that terminology is overused at this point, but I definitely think they can get easier buckets. I guess the term I would use, at least. Free throws tend to be something that either a guy is or isn't good at, right? And I think at this point in time, I think that that's the key. The key is going to be keep getting those free throws. And you're right. I think they'll be able to continue doing that. Now, the efficient shooting, I don't know about that. I've seen enough basketball to know that teams have issues at some point. There's always going to be somebody has a bad shooting night, or a team that plays a certain style of defense or a certain style of matchup. Like I said, the Miami Heat, for example, the Cavs will be a very interesting game, because when the Sixers last played them, they didn't have Markkanen on the floor. Markkanen is a matchup problem for most teams in the NBA, and the Sixers are no exception, because the problem with Markkanen is that if you spend too much time focused on him, Garland is going to be able to have that pick and roll lob game with Jared Allen. So if you are a team like the Sixers, if you focus too much on Markkanen and LeVert, for example, Garland and Allen can get theirs. Or if you let Markkanen shoot all night and you dare him to beat you, he's going to make it interesting. So, these are matchups that'll tell us a lot about the Sixers moving forward, but I'm very encouraged by the weekend with the Sixers. Really quick before we hit the break, for those who didn't hear, Andy Weidel, if you didn't go to 973ESPN.com and the 973 ESPN mobile app, Andy Weidel is the number 2 in the Eagles front office, basically. He's interviewing for the Steelers GM opening. Now, I'm not saying that he is getting the job, but Andy Weidel was the one guy that the Eagles have been able to hang on to so far. They've lost all kinds of guys, from Ian Cunningham to Andrew Berry to a bunch of other guys. And Joe Douglas obviously is part of the exodus as well. And I don't want to call it an exodus. These guys getting better jobs. Guys want to get the next job. They want to move the next rung in the professional ladder, and I don't blame them for that. Weidel is going to be the hardest to replace, though. Weidel was the guy that, when Joe Douglas was hired by Howie Roseman back in 2016, 2017, Weidel was the guy that Douglas insisted on bringing with him. And Weidel ends up being the guy the Eagles wouldn't let leave initially. When Douglas wanted to bring him with him to the Jets, the Eagles said, no, we're not letting you do that. We need him. I'm not saying Weidel's getting the job, But all the time I hear Eagle fans say, Howie Roseman needs a football guy, right? Well, Weidell's been the football guy. Weidell is the guy who goes to Howie and says, here's the list of prospects. Here's the guys that I'm recommending or I'm saying, should be drafted and evaluated, and here's their rank. He's the guy who organizes all the details for the Eagles. You lose that guy, you lose a big piece of the puzzle. Something to keep an eye on moving forward. And, I'm not saying Weidell is perfect. There's people who surmise that, Weidell was the guy who told the Eagles that they should draft Davion Taylor. I don't know if that's true or not. There's speculation out there that Weidell was the guy who wanted Justin Jefferson and not Jalen Reagor, and that Reagor was the guy that Doug Peterson wanted. There's a lot of stories about who did what in the Eagles front office. But I'm telling you right now, keep an eye on this Pittsburgh Steelers hiring process. Because if the Eagles lose Weidell, he will be the hardest person to replace moving forward. All right, let's get back to the Sixers talk coming up next. Keith Pompey and the Philadelphia Inquirer joins me here on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City.
Tonight on Compass Media Network's coverage of NCAA basketball, two ACC Blue Bloods collide in Chapel Hill as the North Carolina Tar Heels host the Syracuse Orange. Buddy Boeheim and the Orange look for a tough road win against Armando Bacot and the Tar Heels, looking to keep their tournament hopes alive in Chapel Hill. It's North Carolina and Syracuse. If it's NCAA basketball, it's right here.
The college basketball season continues only on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7 p.m.
Hey, Pete, how's business? It's great. Foot traffic's still way down, but more people are finding me online. Nice. How'd you pull that off? Well, the first thing I did was go to mylocalcustomers.com to see exactly how many searches there were for businesses like mine. So I guess there were a lot? Yeah, there were hundreds of local searches every month. So after I saw that, they helped me position my business online to get in front of those customers. That's awesome. I wonder how many people are searching for my services around here. Well, it's quick and easy to get the answer. Plus, it's free. Just go to mylocalcustomers.com to find out. If there are a lot of searches, you should definitely get in front of them. If there aren't, no harm, no foul.
Go to mylocalcustomers.com for a free local customer analysis that will show you how many customers are searching online for your type of business. It's quick, easy, and free. Visit mylocalcustomers.com. That's mylocalcustomers.com.
Sure, we have 30 seconds to tell you that drivers who switch to Progressive could save big. But then what? Well, radio has been called theater of the mind, so let's tell a story with sound effects. Wow, it's like I was in the story. Almost makes me forget this was supposed to be about saving big with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
TracFone Wireless knows that everyone needs an endless amount of data. So why pay for it? Get unlimited talk to text with 8 gigabytes of high-speed data for just $40 a month. With unlimited carryover data, so you keep what you don't use. On America's largest and most dependable networks with nationwide 5G. TracFone Wireless, now you're in control. Available at major retailers. 5G compatible device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary. See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.
Saving at the Home Depot means you can do more for less. Like making dishwashing easier with this KitchenAid dishwasher, complete with third-level rack and a Pro Wash cycle that adapts to each load. Enjoy savings on top-rated appliances online, in-store, or on the Home Depot app. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. U.S. only while supplies last. Valid February 10th through March 2nd, 2022. Free delivery applies to orders of $396 or more.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Starting trouble. No one likes that. We'll get you set up for some stronger starts. You might just need a fresh charge, and we'll take care of that free of charge. But if it is time for a new battery, we've got replacement batteries that'll fit your needs, starting at just $69.99. You can learn more about our battery selection at AutoZone.com. That's what makes us America's #1 battery destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the NPD Group 2021.
Hey, Coach, we need to score. What's the call?
We're going to wing it. We're calling the pick.
The pick?
Yeah, the one, the only, the original Pick-a-Lily Inn to score some of South Jersey's best wings and homestyle favorites.
But, Coach, it's the middle of the game.
Pre-game, post-game, during the game, the pick's wings, tails, and ears are always the right call. They're right on Route 206 in Chemung, or check them out on Facebook. Now, who wants mild and who wants hot?
The Pick-a-Lily Inn.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Game Night being brought to you by the 2022 Hercules Tires MAC Basketball Championships. They're heading to Atlantic City's Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall March 8th through the 12th. Visit boardwalkhall.com for tickets and info. Josh here in the Matt Black Kia Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers with a big weekend, and they got a couple days off. I think they earned it. 2 big wins for Harden and Embiid. They earned the time off. I know it's a little bit let down. You get these 2 big wins over the weekend. Now I got to wait till Wednesday, and then the Knicks are playing. But, hey, it's how the cookie crumbles in the NBA. I think they earned it. Listen, they went out. They had 2 big wins. And they earned the opportunity to get some time off. One of the things that's interesting about the Sixers also moving forward is Doc Rivers mentioned this previously, and some others have mentioned it as well. It's really a sprint to the postseason now. There's 20, 21 or less games for every team moving forward. And I got to tell you guys, I'm surprised that the NBA let the schedule set up this way, only because of the fact that I'm typically used to the league having a little bit more time between the trade deadline and the All-Star game and the end of the season. That's just me. Schedule wise, I was expecting I'm used to a different type of schedule. So for me, I look at the Sixers and their sprint to the finish, as some people are calling it, as a little bit of a, I don't want to say disappointment, but it's something that I was kind of hoping we'd have a little bit more time to see these guys work together and play together and adapt to each other. And not that, the Sixers particularly need a ton more time to figure things out. But like I said earlier, when you're playing teams coming up who are among the best in the conference, you're not playing Minnesota and the Knicks every night. You're not playing the T-Wolves' poor defense, the Knicks' underwhelming defense, we'll call it, every night. You look at the Sixers' schedule moving forward. Like I said, after the Knicks, it gets interesting. Home against the Cavs, then to Miami, back home against the Bulls, then home against the Nets. Easier game away in Orlando, but then you kind of got to come back next day, Monday, to play the Nuggets. Then you play the Cavs again on the road. It's a situation where you have a team that's kind of maneuvering in and out of their schedule of difficult games, and it's not going to be an easy stretch, and that's why this is going to be an excellent opportunity for them to learn a lot. Even the game on March 20th against the Raptors. The Raptors have a lot of length. They got a bunch of dudes who are all like 6'8" and super athletic. Siakam is still a stud. That's one of my questions as well moving forward. And we'll bring Keith Pompey with the Philadelphia Inquirer in on this in just a moment. This schedule moving forward, we're going to learn a lot. 2 games, all thumbs up. What happens moving forward? Keith Pompey for the Philadelphia Inquirer at Pompey on Sixers on Twitter joins us right now here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Keith, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show, man.
I appreciate you jumping on. I want to bring you in on that point. 2 games, great. But it was against the Timberwolves, who don't play defense, and the Knicks, who might be the worst Thibodeau defense I've ever seen. So, it's great they're getting these reps in, but when the schedule gets Miami, for example, I think we're going to learn a lot about this team more in the next few weeks than just the last 2 games.
I agree 100%. I expect them to beat New York. I don't think they'll overlook the Knicks. I expect them to beat New York. I also kind of expect them to beat Cleveland, to be honest with you. But I think, like you said, going to Miami, that game in Miami is going to be a tough one. Not only is Miami one of the top 2 teams in the East, Miami also has a great coach. In that matchup, I would like to see that. I mean, I don't think that they'll be able to come out and use a zone like they did in the Sixers in the past and just had them discombobulated. But I think that they're going to have a pretty good game plan. And then after that, you got Chicago, you have Brooklyn. It's a pretty good stretch, man, for the Sixers coming up. So we're going to learn a lot about this pairing between James Harden and Joel Embiid the next couple of days.
Keith, what was your biggest takeaway from the last 2 games? I think everyone's focusing on a lot of different things, from the assists for Harden to the triple-double to Embiid saying it's the most open I've ever been post-game. But what was the thing that stood out to you the most?
Just how Harden is such a team player right now. You know what I mean? He's doing everything. He's getting guys involved. He's the leader. Like, this is Embiid's team in regards to Embiid being the best player. But James Harden has become the team leader. Telling, like, come on, Tobias, I'm going to keep coming back to you. Yo, George, go out on the wing. Oh, Matisse, I'm going to meet you at the rim. Things like that. And then also his passing. I mean, think about it. When we saw him in Houston and we saw it from afar, all we saw was ISO ball and everyone saying you can't play, you can't win that way. You saw where he was struggling a little bit. This season in Brooklyn. And now we're looking at him, and he looks like a rejuvenated player who looked for his shot last. And I have to say, though, that's the thing right there that's really stood out the most to me about these 2 games.
I think to me, Keith, and you can tell me better than anyone because you've been traveling with the team, you're with the team, you see more than the average person does. I think the thing that the average fan didn't understand about Harden before he got here, they're seeing now. The dude's basketball IQ is off the charts. I mean, the things that he sees before they happens, it's almost like a quarterback in football who makes the no-look pass or something. Like, some of the things that he does, and he doesn't play the most athletic game. He's almost like a python slippering through the defense, getting to the basket, and then he just snaps that pass off for an open guy. To me, that is the biggest thing I think the average fan didn't understand.
You're 100%. He's a smart guy. I mean, you could just sit down and when you talk to him, you know that he has a lot upstairs, right? But yeah, the basketball IQ is off the charts. I mean, it really is. And let's think about this, man. Like, they've only running a couple plays. Like, he practiced with him one time. They're running a couple plays. So it's one of those things where, he's been the biggest pickup that they had since I've been here. And I get it. I know he's a future Hall of Famer. But when you look at it, it took a lot of other players times to adapt. It took Jimmy Butler a while to adapt for us to say, wow, he's an important piece. Because I remember he had 1 and 2 point games, right? People getting frustrated. But, this guy, his basketball IQ, like you said, is off the charts. And, is only going to get better the more, like, the more comfortable he gets and the more plays he learns and the rhythm down. It's really going to be fun to watch.
Keith Pompey joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, at Pompey on Sixers on Twitter. Check out all of his coverage in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Of course, the Sixers have a couple of days off. They're back in action on Wednesday. And Keith, that's where the interesting thing comes into play, because now you have an extra day off. Now it's okay, get back into the lab, get yourself recalculated. What do you think is the peak of these guys? What do you think is the real potential? Because I don't think we've seen the best of them yet. And that's hard to say because what they've done, but they've only played 2 games together. I remember when LeBron went to Miami, it took them, 3 months to figure that out? Like, to me, I understand Harden is great and Embiid is great and Maxey is a bundle of joy, but this team may still have a lot more to go.
Yeah, it has a lot more to go. And you're right. Typically, it takes teams a long time to adjust. And if you really want to think about it, Tobias Harris has been struggling. So, like Maxey, we're saying Maxey's part of the big three. Tobias Harris is supposed to be part of the big three. And he shot 5 for 19 the last 2 games. So, what you're saying is once he gets it going, they're going to be fun to watch. Now, the thing is, as far as how their max or whatever, it's tough right now because, like you said, the Minnesota Timberwolves do not play defense, right? The New York Knicks are just not a good team right about now.
Right.
But they beat them the way they're supposed to beat those teams. The way that they performed, they did everything they were supposed to. I think that this team is really good. But the test to me is I'm not really concerned about the Chicago Bulls if I'm the Sixers. The test is there's 2 of them. Is like when you play Milwaukee again, and I do know they beat Milwaukee, but when you play Milwaukee again, and then when you play the Heat, and I think we're going to learn a lot more about this team when those games come. But hey, you have to throw them in there in the hunt now. You have James Harden, you have Joel. Like Joel said, they're unstoppable. I think that you have to, based off of these 2 performances, even though it's going to get tougher, that you have to say that they're a contender to win the Eastern Conference right now.
I'd also throw in there the Cavs just because I think that marketing is a matchup problem for a lot of teams. And the way the Cavs have been playing, it's basically like if you focus too much on marketing, Garland and Jared Allen have this little game they have going on. And now they throw in there Karis LeVert, who is, I think, a very underrated player in this league. So I think the Cavs are another team that I'm not saying the Sixers can't beat them, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle it because, you mentioned Tobias Harris. I like Tobias as a human being and as a locker room guy and as a person. I mean, but he's not an elite defender. He's not going out there and locking dudes down night in and night out. So, could he be for lack of a better term, the weak link on defense in some of these games?
He could be, but I also think that, Maxey and Harden, even though Harden did have 5 steals, I think that guys are going to come after them. Yeah, I mean, Tobias, he is what he is. Like you say, he's a great guy off the court. I think that, sometimes when you talk bad about him, then all of a sudden you see these games where he's blocking shots and getting steals. But you would have to say that he is the weakest link when it comes to them, at least in the post. Now, the thing is, the key to me is when we're talking about them going up against Cleveland, I just don't see anybody stopping Joel, especially when you have a James Harden on the floor. Now, again, they're going to get their buckets on the other end too, Cleveland, so it could be a high-scoring game. And the Sixers beat Cleveland last time. But I just keep thinking of that Jared Allen dunk that he had on him and how he used to abuse Jared Allen when he was with the Nets. So sometimes it turns into a mental edge, you know what I mean, where Allen's like, uh-oh, I don't want this smoke, so to speak. So I just think that, Embiid having Harden on the floor, he's going to see less double and triple teams, and he's just going to be able to dominate them.
Yeah, Jared Allen, Andre Drummond. He's got some real estate coming up he owns, in these games. Keith Pompey joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Keith, looking at Tobias a little closer, what do you think is going to be the key to get him started? Because he is a guy that when he does get started, you mentioned, he really gets on. Like he's shown us games where, he'll go out there and have 20 points and 8 rebounds for like an 8-game stretch. And he himself looks unstoppable. What do you think the key is going to be for him to get going?
Well, the Sixers probably are hoping that he got going in that fourth quarter, that could be a carryover for him. But honestly, I think what they need to do is, you know how they're utilizing Matisse right now, where Matisse is like running to the rim, getting lobs, doing all types of stuff. I think in order for Tobias to get going, he has to run, man. He has to run the floor. He can't stop early on. He can't stop at the 3-point line and just launch it up. He needs to do the catch and shoots. I think he's the type of guy that get them in transition, give them a bounce pass, let them get a layup, let them start feeling a little bit, get in a little rhythm, and then open it up. Because, right now the problem is that, Tobias is stopping at the three. If his shot isn't working, is not, he's not impactful. And then when he gets the ball, it's not like he's the type of guy whose game is predicated or enables him to take guys off the dribble, like boom, and then go blow by people. That's not his game. I think that in order for him to get going, like I said, when they're in those breaks, don't stop at the 3-point line. Keep going. And you know that James is going to find you, get a bounce pass and take it up. I think that's what he needs to do. That will build some of his confidence a little bit.
The other question that came out of this weekend, Keith, is the Joel Embiid not on the floor guy, whatever you want to call him, the backup big man or whatever. I'm not fully sure if the Paul Millsap experiment's working so far. I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything, but he ain't the Paul Millsap I saw back in Utah years ago. You know what I mean? He's not the same guy. So, is this Doc still kind of figuring things out, or is Doc maybe being too loyal to the veterans? What do you think's going on here?
I just think they don't have a backup point guard. A backup center, center. You're right. Like, Paul Millsap, let's keep it 100. When Paul Millsap first came here, Doc didn't know what to do with him. Yeah, he didn't know if he was going to play him. He put him in a little bit, and he played well. But we're talking about a 30-something-year-old power forward who's basically playing center. And, no offense to Paul, but, he's seen his better days. His better days were before him. So right now, to me, that says, like, basically, I don't know if I have anybody I can trust, right now. And that's a tough spot because, Paul Reed has been playing well, but Millsap has surpassed him. Then you had Tobias out there playing. And then they go out there and they get Willie Cauley-Stein, but Willie Cauley-Stein wasn't the Willie Cauley-Stein of 3 years ago. So to me, that is a major problem. And I honestly think Paul Millsap playing isn't like a product of, okay, I got this veteran, let me see what he could do. I feel like it's more like, well, I don't have anybody else, and I need to put this guy in there because he is a veteran and he knows how to play,
Absolutely. Keith, before I let you go, one more thing for you. Anyone who's followed you long enough knows that, you're always in the flow. You're always going places. You're always doing things. As we're transitioning, as the politicians call it, from pandemic to epidemic, what is the thing you're most looking forward to as you are traveling, covering this team?
Wow. The one thing that I'm looking forward to covering, it's weird. Like little things. I can't wait until, and this is different. I just can't wait till we get totally back to normalcy. Like where you can be more around the team, where you could go into an arena and no one's wearing a mask. And I'm not saying, I understand why we do it. And I understand we have to be safe and all that. But I just want to go back to that old normalcy right now. You know what I mean? It's just rough. So those are the things that I'm looking forward to the most. Now I know that might not be what some people like want, but for me, I just want to go back to the way things used to be, because then I hate to say it, like with the media restrictions because of COVID, I feel like if they go back, then we can give you guys, and the listeners, the readers, just better stories, more intel, things like that.
Oh, that's huge. I mean, I've had this conversation for the last 2 years now, Keith. Like, people don't understand the access you guys used to have. The people who are covering the team day in and day out, no matter what sport it is. You're going in the locker room, you're around the guys in practice, you're talking, you're seeing things. You don't get that anymore. And it's like, it's almost like a huge piece of like what you guys do has been just, the rug's been pulled out from under you. And you're just kind of like wandering around aimlessly trying to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, a prime example, like, okay, so yesterday Tobias Harris struggled, right? He struggled the last 2 games. So typically what you would do is after a game, sometimes they would have certain players go to the podium, but then they would have other players in the locker room. So what you do is, like, Tobias Harris wouldn't be one of those 3 guys that came to the podium just because the three guys would be the three guys who performed the best, especially in a win.
Right,
so
right.
what you do, you would go around into the locker room and you would talk to Tobias and ask him what's going on, this and that. And that would help the reader out. But now the reader is probably saying, well, how come you guys didn't speak to Tobias? How come you didn't speak to Tobias? Well, it's a matter of like, as big a story what his struggles were, Tyrese Maxey, the story that he had 29 points the first game was a bigger story. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing. And it comes to a point by the time you talk to Tobias, it's going to be an old story now. So, yeah, those are the things that I miss. I really miss those things.
Well, for some of the best Sixers coverage you can find, check him out in the Philadelphia Inquirer at Pompey on Sixers. He is Keith Pompey, Sixers beat writer and reporter, and he joined us right here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Keith, always appreciate the time. Take care.
Thanks for having me on, my man. Thanks for having me on.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Sixers back in action on Wednesday night. You can hear all the game action. Tom McGinnis on the call right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. And, of course, we will have more Sixers conversation in the coming days. Of course, Mike Gill tomorrow on the Sports Bash. He has Michael Kasky-Blomine tomorrow for Inside the Sixers conversation on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City.
It's Sixers basketball Wednesday night on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
4-on-1, down to a beat, and a slam. James Harden sets up Joel Embiid.
The Sixers host the New York Knicks. Coverage begins at 7:30. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
You have the choice, whether it's going out to dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant or buying that new outfit from a local boutique. Those choices help to put money back into your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts a spotlight on local businesses. Seashore Gardens Living Center, Galloway, enriching elder lives in South Jersey for more than a century. Online at seashoregardens.org. Filling Marble and Tile Outlet, Philadelphia Avenue and Route 30 in Egg Harbor City. FillingMarble.com. Piccalilli Inn on Route 206 in Shamong, home of South Jersey's best wings. Absecon Veterinary Hospital, open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and at abseconvet.com. McAllister, the service company for all your cooling and heating needs. Call 800-757-4122 or visit mcservice.com. Perfect Basement. Schedule a free inspection at perfectbasement.com. First Bank of Sea Isle City, Cape May County's community bank. Thank you for supporting your local businesses from Town Square Media, South Jersey.
Saving at the Home Depot means you can do more for less. Like making dishwashing easier with this KitchenAid dishwasher, complete with third-level rack and a Pro Wash cycle that adapts to each load. Enjoy savings on top-rated appliances online, in-store, or on the Home Depot app. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. U.S. only while supplies last. Valid February 10th through March 2nd, 2022. Free delivery applies to orders of $396 or more.
With thousands of dollars in new tax credits this year, Jackson Hewitt understands there's a lot at stake this tax season. We have 102 reasons to switch to a Jackson Hewitt Tax Pro, like giving you $100 just to switch. So that's 100. Then we'll track down every last tax credit so you get every dollar you deserve. That's 101. Finally, we guarantee you'll get your biggest refund. That's 102. Want to discover 103? Book an appointment at a participating location near you. Offer ends March 6th. Available at participating retail locations for new clients only. Mention this ad when filing. Terms apply. Visit jacksonhewitt.com for details.
Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were yelling at another car while driving, let me say it again.
You need to calm down. Yelling is just making everyone as stressed out as you are and letting them all know that you definitely aren't trying to save with Progressive Snapshot.
And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't yelling at another car, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
So in life, throws you uh-ohs. Just save, better get Mako.
Go to Mako.com for an online estimate today.
Do you want the best for your car? Then fill up with premium at Circle K. Circle K Premium is our best fuel with double the cleaning detergent, protecting your engine from corrosion and damage so it can work at its best. And that, my friend, increases your mileage for more cha-ching in your pocket. Plus, when you fill up with premium at Circle K, you can save up to 20 cents per gallon. Offer valid Thursdays or Fridays at participating stores. For details, visit CircleK.com. Circle K. How convenient.
Hey, big guy. Simple credibility approval.
Listen, big guy, try this. Give them more cash for their clunker.
That was my idea.
It's a President's Day sale all month. 0 down, 0.9% financing, 0 payments for 90 days, or $1,000 cash back. At Matt Black Kia, you can have it all. Plus, we want to get you out of that old car you hate. Come in today or visit us online and get the credit you deserve. 0.9% APR financing available for up to 60 months on new 2022 Kia Stinger, or get $1,000 cash back. Plus, Matt Black Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township wants your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
Gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on 1516 for 1,000 borrowed. 1,000 off all 22 Stingers. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 3/4/2022. Matt Black Kia, 6211 on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig back here on Game Night. Of course, we are live in the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. You can DM the show. Thanks to First Bank of CLC. We'll get back to your text in just a bit at 609-403-0973. You know, one of the things that Keith mentioned before we let him go is that about Tobias Harris. He mentioned the Sixers are hoping that fourth quarter, when Tobias Harris started heating up a little bit, that can become something that can roll into more. And I don't know if it will. I just don't, because here's the problem I have with the Sixers offense right now. He mentioned how Tobias Harris would run to the 3-point line or run to the corner instead of running to the basket. To me, part of that is because that's how the offense was run in Philadelphia for so long. The offense was built around Ben Simmons dishing the shooters, Joel Embiid getting space with all these shooters around the perimeter. Now that Harden's a different type of animal than those guys, it might be hard for Harris to adapt to that. And I want to know what happens when a team says, I'm going to let Tobias Harris and Maxey beat me, but I'm not going to let Embiid or Harden beat me. And someone's going to try to do it. It's going to be very interesting to see how Harris will find his way. I believe he will. I don't hate on the guy. Anybody knows, listened to me long enough, knows that I'm a Tobias Harris guy. I appreciate what he brings to the game, what he brings to his team, what he brings to the culture. But I think Tobias is going to have to change more than he already has what his habits are. Let's call it that. His habits. The things that he is inclined to do in certain situations. Get a couple of messages in here. We asked at the beginning of the show your thoughts on the Sixers after the weekend. 609-403-0973 is the text board. 609-403-0973. Dan DHT chimes in, at a full strength, the Sixers may never lose a game ever. Well, you sound like a fan, Dan. I'm glad you enjoyed the weekend, but I can promise you Sixers are going to lose, even if they are, as you call it, to use your words, full strength. Frankly, I don't even know what full strength means for the Sixers at this point. Does that mean that everyone's healthy? Does that mean that everybody is, got their chemistry lined up. I don't really know what that means. Not that it's a bad thing to assume. I'm telling you right now that, to me, when this team is full strength, they are near unbeatable because everybody's beatable at some level. I'm very, very, very interested in the Cavs Heat game Friday, Saturday. I am also interested in the Monday game back-to-back versus Denver coming up. I'm curious about the Monday home back-to-back versus the Raptors and the Heat. And then the Sixers have this road trip where they're playing both LA teams, and then they play Phoenix. But then they come home, they got to play the Bucks. So this is going to be a very interesting stretch of games. We're going to learn a lot about this team this month. And, of course, we will have all the coverage right here on 97.3 ESPN. Back to your text, 609-403-0973. Joey D. in Ventnor says, Josh, with Harden, I feel like Joel and Maxey are even better. It looks so fluid and less clunky. Tobias will find his way. This team has it. That's from Joey D. in Ventnor. Listen, if anybody says this team can't win a championship, they're crazy. Now, I'm not promising you they will win a championship, but I do think that this team has the pieces to get to the NBA Finals. The reason why I preface it that way is because there's still a part of me that looks at the Suns and the Warriors as the two best teams in the league. The Eastern Conference may be the deeper conference, but I think the two best teams in the league, when they're 100%, when Draymond Green's on the floor for the Warriors, and when Chris Paul's on the floor for the Suns, it's those two teams. I think the Sixers could beat any Eastern Conference team in a 7-game series. I'm not 100% sold on them beating the Suns and the Warriors. I need to see more of this group of players together. But Danny HC, Joey D, and Ben, I appreciate you guys chiming in on the text board at 609-403-0973. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Before I get out of here, I've been very, very apprehensive to talk about this next topic. So forgive me if I go off the rails a little bit here. But baseball and their complete disconnect from reality is arguably the most disgusting thing in sports right now. I think it's absolutely embarrassing that baseball doesn't understand that they are the most tone-deaf entity on planet Earth. This is now twice in the last 2 years that the owners and the players can't find common ground and figure things out in a world where there are much more important things than your sport. You have this whole situation going on with Russia basically invading the Ukraine, right? 2 years ago, we were in the middle of a pandemic, right? Where we didn't even know what was left or what was right anymore. People were not even getting the right information. It was misinformation part of the time. I felt like I came on here almost every day when we had the lockdowns trying to give people the right information here on 97.3 ESPN. And this is now 2 straight years, that 2 straight times in the last 2 years that baseball players and owners can't get along, can't figure things out because they're just tone deaf. They're just completely oblivious. And honestly, there's a part of me that hopes baseball destroys itself. And it's not because I hate baseball or anything like that. It's because the greed and the avarice that is being displayed by the owners and the players is disgusting to me. And if you don't know what avarice means, for those of you out there who are mad at me because I used a fancy word, it's basically a term for extreme greed and obsession over material gain. It's absolutely ridiculous that these owners and these players in the environment that we are living in today think that their money is that important. That they can't see eye to eye because of their greed and because of their ego. They should be embarrassed and ashamed of themselves. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Catch you tomorrow.
Big Monday on ESPN Radio. It's a top 20 showdown in the Big 12 when 10th-ranked Baylor faces number 20 Texas.
The college basketball season continues only on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 9 p.m.